At 7:42 a.m. on August 17, 1942, U.S. Navy Captain Paul Pappy Gunn crouched under the wing of a Douglas A-20 Havoc light bomber at Eagle Farm Airfield near Brisbane, Australia. He watched mechanics weld 50 caliber machine guns into the aircraft's nose, replacing the bombardier's position. Gunn was 43 years old, with 21 years of Navy service. His wife Polly and their 4 children were trapped in the Santo Tomas internment camp, a Japanese prison in Manila, Philippines. The U.S. 5th Air Force was in crisis. It was losing bombers faster than replacements could arrive. In July 1942 alone, the 3rd Attack Group had lost 11 A-20s. The tactic of high-altitude bombing against moving Japanese ships was failing. Bombardiers couldn't hit their targets. When bombers flew lower to improve accuracy, they were shredded by intense anti-aircraft fire from the ship's decks. Captain Ed Larner, a squadron commander, had recently watched 3 of his crews burn and crash into the Coral Sea. The Japanese were reinforcing their troops in New Guinea at will, threatening Australia. Pappy Gunn had a radical idea. If bombers flew extremely low, just 50 feet above the water, they could skip their bombs across the surface like stones, hitting ships at point-blank range. But to survive the approach, they needed to suppress the ship's defensive guns. This required transforming bombers into heavily armed strafers. The problem was firepower. The A-20's standard armament of 430 caliber machine guns in the nose was useless against ship armor. The rounds bounced off like hail. Gunn needed 50 caliber guns. The new 5th Air Force commander, General George Kenny, gave Gunn 1 week to prove his concept. Gunn scavenged 50 caliber guns from wrecked P-39 and P-40 fighters whose pilots had been killed. He mounted 4 of these heavy machine guns on a steel frame. Inside the A-20's nose, the combined weight of the guns and 200 pounds of ammunition shifted the bomber's center of gravity dangerously forward. The first test flight nearly ended in disaster. The plane barely climbed and wanted to nose over. Gunn spent 2 days rebalancing the aircraft by moving equipment aft and adjusting the tail trim. A second test pilot reported the plane flew like it was angry, but it flew. On September 12, 1942, 16 modified A-20s struck the Japanese airfield at Buna, New Guinea. Flying at treetop level, their guns hammering, they destroyed 14 aircraft on the ground and suppressed anti-aircraft positions without losing a single bomber. General Kenny was impressed but recognized the A-20's limitations. Its range was too short to cross New Guinea's Owen Stanley Mountains, and its bomb load was too light. Gunn needed a bigger platform. The North American B-25 Mitchell medium bomber. In December 1942, Gunn began modifying a B-25C. He removed the bombardier and transparent nose, installing 4 fixed 50 caliber guns in a solid nose. He added 4 more in external cheek packs on the fuselage sides and rotated the top turret to fire forward. This gave the aircraft 10 forward-firing guns. He later added 2 more on each side, totaling 14 guns, capable of delivering 215 pounds of lead per second. Ground crews skeptically. North American B-25 Mitchell medium bomber. In December 1942, Gunn began modifying a B-25C. He removed the bombardier and transparent nose, installing 4 fixed 50 caliber guns in a solid nose. He added 4 more in external cheek packs on the fuselage sides and rotated the top turret to fire forward. This gave the aircraft 10 forward-firing guns. He later added 2 more on each side, totaling 14 guns, capable of delivering 215 pounds of lead per second. Ground crews skeptically called it Pappy's folly. The prototype was dangerously nose-heavy, requiring full back pressure on the control stick during takeoff, but once airborne, it was a flying destroyer. Kenny immediately ordered 12 more conversions. The 81st Air Depot Group in Townsville worked 18-hour days to modify B-25s. By February 1943, they had 30 strafers ready. Meanwhile, Kenny sent Gunn's blueprints to Wright Field, Ohio, the U.S. Army Air Force's engineering center. After 3 days, Wright Field engineers sent a message declaring the modifications impractical, warning the aircraft would be unbalanced, too heavy, and unsafe. They recommended grounding all modified B-25s. Kenny was in Washington when this message arrived. He walked into the office of General Henry Hap Arnold, where the Wright Field engineers were waiting to explain why Gunn's gunship was impossible. Kenny informed them that 12 of these impossible aircraft had just played the key role in annihilating an entire Japanese convoy in the Bismarck Sea. Every transport was sunk, and 60 more strafers were already being built in Australia. General Arnold practically ran the engineers out of his office. The Battle of the Bismarck Sea, March 2–4, 1943. Allied codebreakers in Melbourne decrypted Japanese naval messages revealing a convoy of 8 transports and 8 destroyer escorts carrying nearly 7,000 troops from Rabaul to Lae, New Guinea. General Kenny had 72 hours to stop them. On March 2nd, B-17 flying fortresses attacked the convoy from 15,000 feet through cloud breaks, claiming hits but sinking nothing, proving again that high-altitude bombing against ships was ineffective. At dawn on March 3rd, the Allied strike force assembled. The plan: B-17s would attack first from altitude to draw. Anti-aircraft fire high, then the low-level strafers would strike. Captain Ed Larner led 12 B-25 strafers and 30 modified A-20s, with P-38 Lightnings and Australian Beaufighters providing cover. Larner's B-25s came in at wave-top height, a 300-yard-wide wall of aircraft with 168 forward-firing 50-caliber guns. They opened fire at 800 yards, their rounds walking across the water like a chainsaw, shredding superstructures, bridges, and gun crews before they could respond. At 100 yards, they released their bombs, which skipped across the water into the ship's hulls. The transport Kyokusei Maru was dead in the water and sinking within 30 seconds. The Teiyo Maru was bracketed by 4 B-25s and broke in half, sinking in 6 minutes. Destroyers like the Shirayuki and Arashio were crippled by strafing and skip bombing. A second strike in the afternoon finished off the convoy. By the battle's end, all 8 transports and 4 destroyers were sunk. Of the 7,000 Japanese troops, fewer than 2,200 reached Lae, an estimated 3,000 drowned. Allied losses were just 4 aircraft. General Douglas MacArthur called it one of the most complete and annihilating combats of all time. The Japanese never again attempted a major convoy reinforcement to New Guinea, factory integration, and legacy. On March 5th, Kenny sent a triumphant message to Hap Arnold, requesting immediate factory production of the forward gun package. Arnold called the president of North American Aviation, Dutch Kindelberger, who said his engineers needed to see the modifications. Arnold replied he was sending the man who designed them. Gunn reluctantly went to California in March 1943, leaving the theater where his family was still imprisoned. At the North American plant, factory engineers were skeptical of his hand-drawn, untested modifications. Gunn explained he solved problems like muzzle blast, damaging the fuselage by welding on extended blast tubes. The engineers spent 2 weeks reverse engineering his work into production-ready designs. The first factory-built strafer, the B-25G, rolled out on May 10, 1943. It featured a solid nose with 2 50-caliber guns and a massive 75mm M4 cannon, the same used in the M3 Lee tank. Gun test fluid. The cannon's recoil made the whole aircraft shudder. The improved B-25H added more 50-caliber guns. The definitive B-25J removed the cannon for a total of 18 forward-firing 50-caliber guns, making it the most heavily armed production bomber in history. Nearly 5,000 strafer variants were built. Gunn returned to the Pacific in May 1943. His modified B-25s, nicknamed Commerce Destroyers, or Black Death by the Japanese, became the decisive weapon of the Southwest Pacific Campaign. They destroyed hundreds of aircraft on the ground and sank over 800 ships. The tactics evolved. Strafers attacked at night using radar, coordinated with PT boats for illumination, and carried rockets and napalm. Gunn continued flying combat missions, driven by the need to liberate his family. On November 27, 1944, during a Japanese air raid on Tacloban airfield, he was severely wounded by shrapnel. A surgeon told him he wouldn't fly for 6 months and was eligible for medical retirement. Gunn refused to leave until his family was free. On February 3, 1945, American forces liberated Santo Tomas. Gunn, against orders, flew to Manila on February 4th. He found his emaciated family in a makeshift hospital. His wife weighed only 89 pounds. After a 4-hour reunion, he returned to duty, post-war and death. After the war, Gunn helped rebuild Philippine Airlines, PAL, which he had founded before the conflict. He started with war surplus C-47s and expanded it into an international carrier. He received numerous decorations, including the Philippine Distinguished Service Star. On October 10, 1957, while flying a chartered Beechcraft Model 18 from Manila to Baguio, Gunn's aircraft encountered a severe storm over the Cordillera Mountains. It crashed, killing all on board. Paul "Pappy" Gunn was 57. His legacy is profound. His strafer concept revolutionized attack aviation, influencing later aircraft like the AC-130 Gunship and A-10 Warthog. His field modifications, declared impossible by engineers, led to factory-produced aircraft that helped turn the tide in the Pacific. He was a mechanic, a pilot, a father fighting for his family, and an innovator whose impossible gunship saved countless Allied lives and changed the course of the war.